Middlekaauff! Baby, hey! What's up, everybody? Welcome. Haberman and Middlekauff. I'm Guy. That's John. It's good to have you. If you're watching on the tube, subscribe to the channel, hit that like button. If you're listening to the podcast, great to have you there as well. Check out the YouTube. If you're watching the YouTube, podcast is down in the description below. If you are new, welcome to you as well. Thanks for being here.
How was Adam Sandler the other night?
Very good. Although enjoyable. A lot of his music. Rob Schneider can sing, like sing. Schneider sang a Elvis song.
Like legitimately, like tried?
John, he was incredible. Like amazing voice. Like if you YouTube Rob Schneider can sing, like YouTube a Rob Schneider singing, you will be blown away. It was one of the highlights of the show.
Why did he sing the Elvis song? Like, did he give any background on why he was choosing that song, or he started busting it out?
Adam did some stand-up. He does some songs. He does this bit about how he got Botox on his dick, and now when he showers at the gym, everybody else thinks he's aroused, but he's not. He did a bunch of weird stuff. And hello to all the kids out there. And sorry. And then he's like, Rob's going to come out and do a song. And Schneider comes out and does, what was the name of that Elvis song? If I heard it, I'd remember in a second. But it was very good. I mean, like, Rob Schneider can really sing. Not kind of sing. Incredible range.
Place packed?
Yeah.
For Sandman?
Sandman.
So Sandman's making some cash on the side doing this little going around.
Yeah.
He does not need to be doing this.
No,
right?
He said he's on a 20-city tour because his daughters are annoying, basically. It was in one of his songs.
Because he's, incredibly wealthy, right?
Yeah. I haven't Googled the net worth, but
I think it's, I guess, 400 or 500 million. And Rob probably bored too.
And then the guy, I don't remember the name of the guy that opened for him, but he was good too. But he didn't. The one thing was he didn't do any of his classics. He didn't do any songs like the Hanukkah song or anything from his last special.
Oh,
which like one of those would have spiced it up, would have been nice. Except he did the Chris Farley song, which he's done before, which is a really good song. But the thing's just wild. Like there's not another person that does a show like. It's just weird, It's just crazy.
He's a unique human.
Just unique, yeah. It's just I loved it. It was fantastic, but it's just a different show. If you like stand-up comedy, but you're not a Sandler guy, not sure the show would work for you.
Yeah,
because some of it is so dumb.
Would you say a lot of people there are in the age range of like 35 to 50 ish?
Yeah, I didn't get to mingle with the masses, John, but.
Rubbing elbows with the elites.
I would say so.
People that grew up on his go-to movies in the 90s, I would say. I don't know. You were there, but
yeah, that's what you just said is what I assumed is what it would be, and that's
a lot of millennials.
What it seemed like. Yeah, I would say I don't think you had a lot of people like in their early 20s there. I think it was late 20s, 30s, 40s. Early 50s, that was kind of the crowd.
Well, think about it. If you were 21, you grew up on some of his Netflix movies. I guess he's had a couple big movies. The one where he was a gambler, which I hated, and I guess recently the Netflix show with the dude playing hoops. But
Hustle.
I would say he made his fame on 3 or 4 movies.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, early 2000s for sure. Right. Michael says that Google says Sandler has an estimated net worth of $420 million in 2020 and since then has signed a 4-year movie deal with Netflix worth over $250.
Do you think is he doing this for Netflix or is this separate, you think?
I don't know. I would assume it eventually goes up on Netflix. Why wouldn't you double dip a tour and a special?
They need it.
I'm going to be on tour anyway. Should we record this for $20 million?
In.
Yeah, done. So But big Sandman. By the way, the reason I picked the wrong Sandler joke to share at the beginning, which wasn't even a joke, but just a funny concept. I've gotten a few DMs over the last few months from a guy who's a grandpa. He says, love your show. My grandkids love your show. Could you dial down the F-bombs for my grandkids? So shout out to Kyan and Avery, John, 12 and 10 out there, and their grandpa.
I would say tell Gramps
the early joke.
I would say right around that time, 10 to 12 years old, I started watching movies like Adam Sandler stuff. And, that's where I was welcomed into the world of that I've been talking like ever since.
I know.
Some people were saying on the chat, how did you hate Uncut Gems? I couldn't stand Sandler's voice in that movie.
I found that movie to be one of the most, I was so just physically uncomfortable for most of that movie. I did not enjoy that experience.
Saw it by myself in the theater. So Adam Sandler, gambling, KG. I thought The Mob. I thought it had a chance to be, my version of The Godfather, And again, went by myself. I've been to 5 movies in the movie theater in 15 years. It's to get me to go to the movie. My hopes and dreams for that thing were, maybe my expectations were too high, right?
It could be, yeah. I think he's working with the guys that made that movie again, making another movie. So
it had potential. Like he was on some of the right themes.
There are people that really like it. That's the one thing you would say, right? Like I agree with you. But I thought the ending, the last 5 minutes, I was like, okay, that was okay. But
I thought Hustle was just an easier, better watch.
And I think if we asked like the public, they would say Uncut Gems was better than Hustle. I didn't see Hustle though, so
yeah. You don't have to. I just one of those bored flipped it on.
Yeah. So we'll see. I'm gonna try and make it through the show for Kyan and Avery. F-bomb free. That's just a little challenge.
I get some of those too, and my mom and people. I apologize, and it's we're just probably not for a 10-year-old when he's with his grandpa. I had CDs that I listened to. I couldn't listen to around my dad because he would throw it out the car, right? But I still listened to the CD when he wasn't around. It's just part of life, It's just your grandparents and your parents for me. And I've had a long argument with my mother about the way I talk, and I talk like I talk. It's just not. Right.
Yeah.
This is just you. This is not a reflection of you. This is just a reflection of purely myself.
Reflection of you.
And I also think, as a society, why do we condemn certain words and the F word,
allude?
And it feels like the way society is on some of these schools. Maybe I would imagine they're just swearing out left and right. No one even gets in trouble anymore. When we were kids.
Yeah, once you got rid of capital punishment in schools, John, the world has just gone downhill. Is that what it's called? Capital punishment? No, corporal.
Yeah, but that was gone by the time. I remember my dad always wishes like you deserve to get your hand hit. The
ruler.
Yeah, it's like that was in my day. It's like the classic. Like, yeah, I'm sure you hiked uphill too to your school. In the snow. You grew up in El Cerrito. It wasn't snowing.
Before we go any further, John, let's tell the people and the people 21 or over about our friends at Tito's, John. Tito's handmade vodka. Numero uno. I went Tito's and water at the Sandler show. Beforehand, I went to dinner, and they said, what we love is a little espresso martini. And I said, espresso martini. And they said, any preference of vodka? And I said, what? Tito's, please. And the guy was like, yeah, that's what I was going to do otherwise, but just wanted to check. Tito's handmade vodka. Make it part of a good time.
I may have, tied on a couple last night, palled around a little event that I was not a part of. I went, and then we went out to dinner after. Actually, at a restaurant, I forget the name of it, but we went to spring training once and went to this restaurant. It's pretty good.
Oh, the steakhouse, the really nice steakhouse. With
this was another one kind of by the river. A little kind of trendier American food. Had an espresso martini. Had about 4 other Tito's and sodas. And they were like lime or lemon. I'm like, well, just rotate them. I don't really have a preference. I've just said lime my whole life because it's like, yeah, just throw in a lime. But now, like Tito got me thinking, like throw in a lemon. So I just said keep it rotating. And they are dangerous. At least the water, the potency of Tito, and just the vodka, it slows you down a little bit. To me, the Tito soda can just fly like a waterfall.
Yeah,
and it can be dangerous. It just can taste like a bubbly water, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you throw in the lime, I feel actually is a little stronger. So I guess I prefer the lime. But if Tito's going to drink a lemon, who am I to say that you shouldn't drink a lemon, right?
I agree with you on the lime, but Tito's is trying to strip that sucker down. Tito Beverage, the man, not Tito Beverage, the drink. Tito's handmade vodka, John. You got a holiday party. You're just hanging out at the house, whatever you want. Bring Tito's. Make Tito's part of the party. Right now, you can, check out some holiday-like recipes, like a Tito's Merry Mule, which is vodka, ginger beer, cranberry juice, lime juice, 2 dashes of orange bitters. How about the Tito's Clementine Cheer, which is ginger ale, fresh squeezed clementine juice, a little cinnamon syrup, and 1 sage leaf for garnish. Or you can go with your own personal mixes, whatever you got. Tito's handmade vodka, numero uno. It is the official everything of this show. Distilled and bottled in Austin, Texas. 40% alcohol by volume, namely 80 proof. Crafted to be savored responsibly.
Do it, people.
What does tied one on mean? Do we have a history on that? Can we get an English teacher to weigh in on that?
There are just certain sayings that you just say, and I would say the overwhelming percentage of people have no clue what they mean. Because I heard something like someone questioned because I was listening to something and they said, till the cows come home. And they're like, how do the cows come home? They're around a fence. They're always fenced in. They're not going anywhere. They just kind of roam around the fence. It kind of makes sense. Where are the cows coming home to? That they're already
is the insinuation that you go, it's a good question. Do you round up the cows at sundown? I got to think about my cow rounding days. Cow rustling.
So I don't know. It doesn't. Some sayings just don't add up, but we just say them, and they actually make sense when you say them. But when you think about them, they make completely no sense.
Tie a bun on is an old British slang. I don't even know. We're not even going to get an answer on that one. Also brought to you by Manscaped. Manscaped, promo code HAM number 1. Manscaped.com, promo code HAM1. Get you 20% off and free shipping. Manscaped.com, promo code HAM the number 1.
Yeah, get on it right now. Manscaped.com, promo code HAM the number 1. Lawnmower 4.0, the greatest testicle, we'll keep it appropriate, testicle trimmer of all time.
Somehow it sounds worse.
I get a lot of hair on the kids used to. I don't even know if this is appropriate anymore. The tramp stamp area of the back, right above the buttocks.
Tramps, but
and so you trim right there. I also got some hairs on my back I've been trimming, and obviously the weed whacker is just. I don't think a nose hair trimmer has ever been designed better, and I would say definitely more efficient than that thing, because you just throw that up there, you do a couple circles, swab style, and then all of a sudden you just,
not as deep.
You don't have to go as deep. You just go kind of right on the edges, because I think you want some hairs up there to contain the boogers, right?
Yeah, and filter the air.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah.
The Lawnmower 4.0 body trimmer and the Weed Whacker nose and ear hair trimmer both feature the proprietary advanced skin-safe technology. You get the wireless charging system as well. Plus, you can completely upgrade your shower routine with the ultra premium body wash and ultra premium 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner. Go to manscaped.com. Use the code HAM the number 1. HAM1. There are many codes out there. HAM1 is the one we recommend and appreciate. You get 20% off and free shipping when you use that code. 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. Code HAM, and then just the single numeral, the number 1, Cam Newton's number. I thought somebody said Cam Newton should be the next coach at Jackson State. Manscaped, promo code HAM and the number 1. There you go.
Get it.
Corey says $5. What's your favorite movie? Please don't prove the chat's assumption right and say Forrest Gump. My favorite movie changes depending on, it's a mood. I'd say it's definitely a mood thing. Hard for me to answer. I mean, I don't know. I have to really think about that if I was going to throw out an answer.
I would say if you judge it on basically you're flipping channels, but you don't flip channels.
8 Mile. If you judge it by flipping channels, what do you stop on? Obviously 8 Mile.
Yeah, I mean, I would say Shawshank Redemption is just on television so much, and I enjoy it. I would say that's something that, like, as you've gotten older, I wouldn't have enjoyed it as much when I was in my early 20s, but I didn't like onions and tomatoes back then either, and now I don't have a sandwich without them. I think as you age, you probably like different movies, But I would still put a combination of when I was the age of, like, the grandpa that slid into your DMs, a combination of Con Air and The Rock, of just, like, I don't know, I'm a sucker for, like, that genre that when I was about 10, 11, 12 years old came out. I shouldn't have watched them. Or I wasn't allowed. I should have watched them, and I did. I wasn't necessarily allowed. I remember I was at a friend's house, and his dad freaked out after the part of The Rock when those guys are dealing with the virus and they die and everyone's swearing. And yeah, but that's a fantastic movie.
Lucas says, pretty sure that Till the Cows Come Home refers to farms where cows graze free range during the spring and come inside during the winter. You know, I was about to say that, actually. I was thinking that that's what it was.
Good call.
God, it pisses me off when people say that. Oh, I was about to say that.
What does pay dirt mean?
Like the end zone?
Yeah.
That's where you get paid? That's the dirt where you get paid? You know, when it's grass, like pay dirt. Maybe it's a pay dirt.
It's P-A-Y dirt.
Pay dirt, yeah. This
pay
is
dirt
where the money is made. Where
gotcha.
the points are
So like when you bust a 50-yard run, he goes, how do you say it as an announcer? That's pay dirt, or is it off to pay dirt?
Oh, MIDDLEKAUFF, 36 yards to pay dirt.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Ground containing ore in sufficient quantity to be profitably extracted.
So it's where the profit's made.
Valuable land.
Yeah.
There you go.
So land where you get paid or babies go to die.
That's right. If you turn it over
yeah,
in the baby zone, that is
it's not good.
Under dirt instead of pay dirt.
Yeah.
49ers. Before I get to that real quick, John, just want to mention to you this week, because I've been doing it, so I'm going to keep doing it. This week we have two NFL games featuring teams that are both over 500. The Jets have been a part of this game for a while now. Jets and Bills. Both teams are over 500. It's actually wild, the two games that has two teams over 500. Jets and Bills is one. The other, Eagles-Giants. Those are the two games featuring teams in which both teams are over 500. If we expanded it to at least 500, then we'd add some more games. Dolphins-Chargers, one of the teams is over, one is 500. Niners-Bucs. Bucs are 6-6. And that's it.
Because I would say the Dolphins, Chargers, and Niners, Bucks is more interesting to me than Phillies, Giants.
Phillies, Philly, Giants, yeah.
I don't find the Giants very watchable. I'd say Jets Bills is a pretty interesting game because if the Jets lose this game and the Patriots, who play the Cardinals, I'm pretty sure on Monday Night Football,
that's correct.
Because the Patriots have swept the Jets, I think the Jets are pretty good, but and they're clearly a big underdog now in this game. They could miss the playoffs. Somehow the Patriots, who everyone thinks sucks and their offense is terrible, you look up, they're 9-8. The Jets turn 9-8. Well, they're going to have the tiebreaker, and the Patriots are in, and the Jets are out.
Right. Right now, the Jets are 7-5. The Patriots are 6-6.
I think I like the Patriots in that game.
Patriots at Cardinals. Yeah, Monday Night Football. As we are live on Thursday, Raiders-Rams is tonight. Couple of other games of interest. Here's a sneaky game. Vikings at Lions.
Do you know that the Lions are favored in that game?
Lions are favored in that game?
-2.
They're 5-7. The Vikings are 10-2.
Remember, they played earlier this season. The Lions were kicking their ass.
How about that?
Lions sneaky, not dead for the playoffs if they were able to win this game.
Do you think Chiefs Broncos has a chance to be semi-close?
10-point favorite.
Denver's defense is good. Game's in Denver.
I could see it being a little weird, but the Broncos offense is historically poor. So it could be an ugly 17-3 game.
Yeah. Panthers at Seahawks. Panthers are 4-8. Seahawks are 7-5.
Coming off a little late season bizzle, also known as the bye.
Oh.
I tried it and I was like, that doesn't even sound like a bye. I don't even know why I said that.
No, John, that's absolutely part of English now. Bizzle.
Yeah. A little weird too that you would think
six teams on a bizzle this week, John. Falcons on a bizzle. Packers on a bizzle.
The Falcons are on. I thought they just named a new quarterback, so they're not even playing this week.
They named Desmond Ridder the quarterback, so you could have the whole bizzle to prepare.
I didn't pay much attention to that story because I just do not. The Falcons, bore me to death. Just the franchise. Not. I actually when they're on my television, they're not a terrible watch, but just any news about the franchise does nothing to my inner beings. Like you could be like, everyone in the entire organization was fired. They fired every coach. They're going to play or run. I'd be like, cool. Just nothing with the franchise impacts my thoughts or feelings,
Yeah.
You could say the same thing with the Texans. You could do the Jags. It just, I'm unmoved by news. I feel the same thing about the Commanders. You could give me subpoenas, DOJs, until he's
the most
gone
interesting
or
thing
something
about
happens.
Just whatever Gruden's writing about.
100%. So you say John Gruden, and then I'll click. But if it's just like Dan Snyder and the NFL and Rodgers, I'm not clicking on your story. I'm not, You give me like Giselle's dating. I'm like, click. You know, I mean, there's certain things that get me, certain things that don't.
Right. Jags have been completely uninteresting.
Mike White content, I naturally gravitate to.
Towards, but honestly, like I had some of that last year. It's got a ceiling on it. Dolphins Bills next week, by the way. Of course, the Niners play the Seahawks on Thursday night next week. So
I didn't do any research, but I wonder if the old Dolphins stayed on out here this week.
Yeah, they're practicing at UCLA today.
No shit.
How about that?
Yeah, makes sense.
Yep. Raiders Rams Thursday night football, baby.
Ooh,
Baker. If you're listening to this after the fact, you know what happens, but this show expects to see Baker Mayfield on TNF.
Yeah, it'd be a rough month stretch, even though they've kind of righted the ship to lose to Jeff Saturday, potentially his only win, and to Baker Mayfield, who arrived Tuesday afternoon.
The Raiders they're not losing this game on Thursday.
You wouldn't think.
It's going to be a home game. Okay. It's a road game, but it's a home game. A lot of LA Raider fans. Baker Mayfield arrived on Tuesday. Today is Thursday. They've got no offensive line. They had no Aaron Donald.
No Cooper Kupp.
Allen
Robinson's injured too.
There is no way the Raiders lose this game, John. This is a stone cold lock. There is no way. This is impossible to lose this game. There's no chance. If you're listening to this after the fact, you're like, guy was right. There's no way the Raiders could lose to Baker Mayfield, who knows 8 plays, basically gets to the line of scrimmage, I'm imagining, and McVay is just talking 80 miles an hour as Baker's kind of looking, and, they're doing the thing where they don't even have dirt. I don't know how they're going to draw plays up in the huddle. Baker's on his hand, just being like, all right, you go that way and you go that way. There's no way they lose this game, John. Raiders have got this thing on block.
The NFL should allow Baker Mayfield and Sean McVay to take away the 15-second rule and be able to communicate all the way down to the zeros.
That's a good call.
That's the only way to make the game fair.
This is going to be an ass kicking, John, an ass kicking.
I wonder if Bobby Wagner regrets, should I have gone somewhere else?
Where was he going to go, though? Remember?
I don't know, but it sucks. I mean, you're 3-9. Your team sucks. It's not ideally, the last couple years of your career. Some of his buddies, right? Like Richard, his swan song, he got to go to another Super Bowl. You're just going to go 3-9? That sucks.
As the Seahawks are good. Ish.
Pete said something, gave him a lot of credit last week, and Seattle tweeted it out, and then Bobby did one of those fists up, so they feel like they mended the fences a little.
Oh, good.
It's another one. Do fences fall down a lot?
And
wrought irons not exist?
Yeah, John, anybody that's had the land, you got to
for sure.
Mending fences is part of the daily routine.
That's true. I mean, wood fences, I feel like a lot of people now do the cast iron.
Hey, I watched Nope. We're going to get to sports here now. But I just want to tell you, I watched Nope the other day. Have you seen that?
No, I have not.
I don't feel like it got a ton of, I don't know what it got. Not a lot of people you got to watch Nope. I enjoyed Nope. It's free on something. I thought it was good.
I'll check it out.
Yeah. All right. Boy, there's a few different ways to attack this, but big Kyle Shanahan week this week. Against the Bucs. And, I think it's because it's also a Brock Purdy week, obviously. I don't want to play something for you. This is yeah, okay. So this is actually from Monday Night Football, the Manning cast this last week, because the Bucs and Saints played on Monday night. And Eli Manning broke down the Bucs defense for that game. So at the end, you'll hear him say Andy and Jameis because he's talking about the Saints quarterbacks. But see if you can hear here what. Tell me how this sounds if you can hear this all right. Here's Eli Manning on the Bucs defense on Monday Night Football.
Their front four does not get a lot of pressure. If they're just rushing forward, they're not going to get to the quarterback very often. But they do have some exotic blitzes. They're bringing all sorts of people. They love to bring different blitzes and play zone behind it. They're not a man team. They're going to play zone. They'll play shell, and so they can get you into some hots. They can get you into bringing overloads, and so you have to get the ball out quick. You might be able to get it protected, but they do a good job. It's complex. It's different. You never know where guys are coming from, and so they can get you into forcing some balls, and that's what they did last time. Andy was not the quarterback, it was Jameis Winston, but a lot of turnover, especially third down, expect some sort of pressure.
Every game is talked about like it's a chess match, but what Kyle Shanahan has here is a major chess match with a quarterback who just is, for all did Trent Williams say Brock Purdy's like a 15-year vet, or whoever said that this week? But he's not, right? For all of the qualities that he has not seen as many. He's not been in the fire in the NFL the way that Jimmy Garoppolo has.
That I think Kyle said after the game he thought his best throw was when they basically all out blitzed and he hit Kittle on the play last against who the hell did they just play? My mind's not working. Who the 49ers just beat with Brock Purdy? Who they play on Sunday? I can't think. I mean,
the Miami Dolphins, John.
Yeah, okay. Miami Dolphins. It would have taken me a while to get that. This is where, again, Todd Bowles is probably a better defensive coordinator than any guy that he saw in the Big 12. But when they talk about having a lot of experience, they don't mean that it just translates to when you become a starter in the NFL. But it does mean that you've seen stuff in game environments, right? Like you have put game plans together as the Iowa State starter in the Big 12 for 4 straight years, all week, put a game plan together. Then you go into a game and you see different things and you adapt. Like to me, I think that's like the nitty gritty of what coaches, you've prepared, led up to a game, and then you've made adjustments in games and you've seen all these different defenses. So Todd Bowles is, listen, he's not a very good head coach. He's pretty abysmal. Like the guy, he's a number 2. Dennis Allen, same thing. Good defensive coordinators, bad head coaches. But he is really good defensive coordinator. I think it was widely considered when they were all defensive coordinators, it was like him and Vic just felt like do it a little differently. Like Vic's never been a big blitz guy, runs a 3-4 defense, and Todd's just kind of all out, but it works. Never forget, they did lose their tackles. They destroyed Andy Reid in that Super Bowl. That was a full-blown ass kicking. And it felt like, I think did Tom win the MVP? But it felt like, remember I had a Devin White ticket? The defense, that was Devin a defensive performance.
Did he have a
Devin White pick?
Yeah, it felt like he had a chance to win that.
Had like 15 tackles. But it was, they are, and you watch them now, you and I were going through, like their defense is pretty good. Like I do not just, the Niners are, I don't expect 150 yards on the ground. I think it's going to be hard to get to the 100-yard mark. So you are going to be in passing situations because even if Kyle tries to hammer the run, like you could be, it'd be 2nd and 10, right? So you're just going to hammer it again and be 3rd and 9, and then you're going to pass. And what's going to happen when you pass and they know you're passing? He's going to fucking bring the heat.
Yeah, they're giving up 4.5 yards a carry. They give up a lot of rushing yards, but they are not going to feel, at least, it's on Brock Purdy to threaten them, to make them feel threatened with the pass game, and not turn the ball over. I've been saying this all week, and it really applies to this game. The recipe for the 49ers doesn't change with Brock Purdy taking over for Jimmy. The question is, can Brock Purdy replicate Jimmy's recipe? Jimmy's recipe doesn't look all that challenging, right? It doesn't look all that complicated. But it is. I think it is challenging. It's challenging to not throw interceptions, which, Jimmy, he's tried to throw a couple and he threw one and it got called back. But in the final tally, he's not been throwing picks. And
good on third down, right? Passing the ball.
Yeah. It's like I know the recipe, it feels like an easy recipe to duplicate, but I do think that's part of Garoppolo is he hasn't made mistakes. So, and he's made plus plays. Now, Purdy made plus plays last week, but the challenge of being an NFL quarterback is making the plus plays without the negative plays, right? If you put an average quarterback out there for 17 weeks and let him just throw the ball around, he'll throw touchdowns, but he'll also throw a lot of interceptions. Your average QB, if you just cut him loose. And so that to me is like, how much can Kyle really manage this game? How much can he really anticipate what the Bucs are going to do defensively and have the counter ready so Brock Purdy's not trying to figure it out with the play clock at 3, at 2, at 1, and now they missed a protection, and here comes some guy free off the edge. If you heard what Eli said, he said you're going to miss protections and guys are going to be coming free, which we saw. That's part of how Jimmy got hurt last week. It's part of that play with Kittle. He had a free rusher, Purdy, when he made the play that Kyle Shanahan complimented him for. Like, that's, to me, is what's scary. And then what happens in that moment? Does Brock go, time to make a play and make you pay, baby? Brett Favre's coming. Or does he go, all right, we're going to live to fight another down. I'm going to trust my defense against Tom Brady and whatever. We're just going to stick to the game plan. The Bucs, the last 4 games, and this is where we say, like, this is the Niners recipe. The Bucs, the last 4 games have averaged, they've allowed 1.5 touchdowns per game. They allowed 1 touchdown last week. They allowed 2 touchdowns the week before. They allowed 2 touchdowns the game before, which was the Seahawks game in Germany. And they allowed 1 touchdown the week before that. So they've allowed 1, 2, 2, 1. That's how many touchdowns they've allowed.
And it was 21-3 across the pond going into the fourth quarter.
Yeah, the 2 touchdowns the Seahawks scored were in the fourth quarter.
I would imagine if you look at some of Brock Purdy's his history as the Iowa State starter, he didn't see many defensive coordinators that would just stand everyone up in the line of scrimmage. 5 or 6 guys at the line of scrimmage just standing up. Todd Bowles does that a lot. He did it all the time. It felt like every other snap against the Saints, like Vita Vea's moving around here, standing up. Like the guy's a 340-pound defensive tackle, and now he's a pretty special athlete. But, I mean, he has some versatile chess pieces. I brought up the third down percentages so far in the NFL through, whatever, 13 weeks. It makes sense, the top 4 teams. Basically from 51% to 46%. The Bills, the Chiefs, the Bengals, and the Eagles are 1 through 4. The 49ers are 5th. That's a pretty, you're with the 2 best teams in the league, you would say. Actually, the 3 best teams in the league, right? I would put them, the 4 best teams in the league. The Bills, the Chiefs, the Bengals, the Eagles. Whatever order you want to put those in. Those are the 4 best teams in the league. I think if you just ask people that watch the NFL, Eagles are clearly the best team in the NFC. And then, those 3 teams in the AFC are on a different tier than the entire other AFC. And they're the best third down team. Well, how did the 49ers flip their fucking season? Jimmy Garoppolo started being really good. And part of where he's really good, he doesn't throw a lot of touchdowns. He's not pressing the field down the field. He's good on third down. Well, if you're good on third down and your defense is the best defense in the league, what's going to happen? You're going to win more games than you lose, right? That's really what they've done since week 1. Because their record since week 1 is 8-3. That game that they lost to the Bears. And really, after the Bronco game, if we did, I don't know what the math is, but they're probably like 7-1, 7-2. I mean, they've won a lot of games after that because they start 1-2.
Mm-hmm.
So they would be, 7-2.
Yeah.
And I think third down, because offensively, they're not scoring 35 fucking points a game. They're not winning in shootouts. They are not allowing you to score, and they are efficient on offense. They're not efficient in the red zone, right?
No, they're 53% in the red zone, touchdowns.
But they are really efficient. To me, if you're in that crew of teams, that's – and really the Bears, kind of weird or an outlier. The other teams that are kind of just in the top 10 are the Cowboys, the Ravens, Seattle. Well, what do all these teams have in common? They're 8-4. They're 7-5. What are the Cowboys? 9-3. All these teams' records are really good. And I think the other thing, like the Bills, the Bengals, the Eagles, the Cowboys, these teams have good defenses too. So you're headed to 11 wins. Now, I think the question is really, but if you're listening this Friday or Saturday, once Sunday hits, it's 5 days. I mean, that's a lot of football for Brock Purdy in a 5-day stretch.
You're saying before you play the Seahawks on Thursday?
No, I'm just saying you have a 5-day stretch of 2 games that this percentage, if it dips a little bit, it could go the wrong way. These are 2, you could lose these 2 games, right? I don't think you and I can envision it. Anyone listening can envision it. They could easily lose to Tampa to me, 17-14.
Yeah,
right?
It's not that hard to envision because every Sunday, for the most part, you watch them play a game that they could lose, including the game they just played against Miami, including the game they played against New Orleans. I know they didn't give up a point. They won by 13, but if you experienced the game, there were points in that game where you thought they might lose today, right?
Because here's what I know. If you lose to Tampa, regardless whether Seattle wins or loses, right? If they win, you would have the same record. If they lose, they'd still be a game behind. The pressure in that Seattle game is beyond immense. And potentially, if you win and Seattle wins, nothing really changes. There's one where you can take somewhat of a breath, right? You win, they lose, you got a 2-game lead on them. Even if they beat you at home, you're still in first place in the division. And ultimately, it's not as big of a loss because it's not. It wouldn't be good, but if I tell you lose a road game in December on Thursday night, it's very understandable. But if that game is what feels like for all the marbles, another thing, statement that people use that I don't know how long since a lot of people played marbles, but that's probably the 50s and the 60s. Not many people are playing marbles, but that's a good statement. It's an easy one to use, and I think most people know what you're talking about. This just, having a rookie quarterback making his second career start on the road in a game that's just going to be fucking bananas in terms of noise. Probably be the loudest game he's ever been involved in. And he's probably played in some pretty loud stadiums, right? Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, at Iowa State. He's probably played some loud games against Iowa. And some of the
TCU, I'm
Big Ten.
sure. I mean,
Yeah.
West Virginia.
So I'm not saying he's not, and this gets back to the experience. Like, he has been in environments
Texas.
where it's really, really loud. I think when he was there, Texas was pretty shitty. He probably never even lost to
I mean,
Texas
Tom
that year.
Herman's Texas team went 7-3. What'd they do that year?
Yeah, so maybe lost to him. But you got to win. Like, to me, this is huge. I ideally, if you're, for the Niners and for Brock Purdy's sake, you win, somehow Seattle gets upset, and you can just be cool. You just kind of let it, just good experience for them for the playoffs. But it's not like if you lose 20-10, like whatever, right? Because there's no whatever if it's a 1-game lead or you have the same record. It'd be devastating.
Yeah, I mean, it's whatever. If you win this week and take a 2-game lead because Seattle loses on Seattle and then they beat you Thursday, it's still just a 1-game. You don't have the head-to-head tiebreaker anymore, and you still have 3 games left, including the Commanders and the Raiders. One of them is on the road. Another one on I guess it's not a short week because you play Christmas Saturday. But you would be able to breathe a little easier, but every time you think you're about to breathe easy in most divisional races, with the exception of teams that are like 11-1, for the most part, you don't really get to breathe easy with a month left in the season, unless you're an 11-1.
Yeah, it's not like baseball where you can have a 7-game lead, and it's like, for you to pass me, it's kind of crazy things have to happen.
So, it just feels like they are playing playoff games every week, which is what they would have been doing with Jimmy anyway. But there've been a lot of compliments for Brock this week, and a lot have been. I haven't heard anything that I think is undeserved. But anyone that's watched football a long time, as most people listening to this or watching this have, you just know one game is not who you are. It's weeks. It's weeks. It is a long game. It is not a short game. And the long game is far from over. And the Niners, again, the good thing for the Niners is this is the way they have played. Their defense already knows the deal. Their offensive line, like everyone knows the deal. The question is, can Brock just play that way?
And you would say Kyle's other 2 playoff seasons, this is how it went, right? They got in on a last play to win the division in Seattle when they were 13-3. And then last year, they literally got in an overtime game to get into the playoffs. So they have their guys are used to the pressure, just not the quarterback, who is used to pressure, right? He played on a top 15, 20 team when he was at Iowa State, and they were playing in big games, but it's just different in the NFL.
Yeah. Well, I think part of his college experience was they won and lost because of him, right? That is not the 40. I mean, the quarterback does affect if you win or lose. Is that without question? Like that third down percentage you gave Jimmy Garoppolo, he was playing well. There's just no way around it. He was playing well.
Well, think about the other 4 quarterbacks that are above them: Josh Allen, Burrow, Mahomes, Jalen Hurts. Is that like if the Heisman Trophy was the equivalent in the MVP? Those would be the 4 guys, probably, right? Like if you just took people for the MVP, the quarterback.
Yeah, Gino would be like Michael Penix, left out, and everybody would be pissed. By the way, John, speaking of Kyle Shanahan, a remarkable career continues. Football Outsiders put this graphic together. With the win over Miami last week, Kyle Shanahan finally got over 500 for his career. He is 47-46. It took 93 games to get over 500. The only coach that ever took longer to get over 500 was the Hall of Famer, Tom Landry. It took him longer to get over 500. Now, as the article points out, Landry took over an expansion team and they didn't have a draft pick. So it was a little bit of a different era. But just gives you an idea. Now, other guys that took a long time to get over 500, Gary Kubiak in Houston, this is career record. So Jeff Fisher, Bill Walsh, among others. So Jimmy Johnson in Dallas, Dick Vermeil in Philly. Dick Vermeil had open tryouts. I think the Niners were able to stop short of that. Jerry Glanville in Houston, but
You think Vince Papale could make this 49er team?
I think Shanahan would actually like Papale, don't you?
Well, I think Belichick would sign him before Kyle could get his hands on him.
He'd be coming out of a Chip Kelly program.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's just, I don't know. It's just it illustrates, as weird as Kyle's tenure has felt because of the high highs and the low lows and the constant quarterback injuries. The numbers do illustrate it's felt weird. It has been a historically abnormal head coaching career for Kyle Shanahan to this point.
Well, if you just put the microscope on the last 4 years, if they're able to win this division, I think most teams, beside like Andy Reid and like the Belichick Brady run, would sign up for 2 division championships, another playoff berth, and who knows how many playoff games they win or what happens this year, but potentially 5+ playoff wins over that period of time. Like, that's very successful, right? If you siphon out the first couple years that were kind of a disaster.
Yeah. But it's that is representative of a guy that's been kind of a lightning rod for debate, right? Kyle.
Yeah, and he's just a lightning rod coach given the experiences he's had, right? I would say him and his dad, starting with Washington, that was one of the more famous things with RG3 and Cousins, like that just storyline in the NFL. I would say the 28-3 is one of the biggest storylines in the history of the Super Bowl. And I've always said Kyle gets blamed. Like, he's the only assistant coach I ever remember getting blamed for something, whether it's fair or not. Like, head coaches get blamed. I mean, they get crushed, guy. And he just I've never heard Dan Quinn's name mentioned one time with that game. Never once. If you meet someone randomly and you start bullshitting about the 28-3 comeback, it's fuck Kyle. What was he doing? I bet in like 5 years, once we're like a decade removed, you'd be like, you remember who Atlanta's head coach was? They'd be like, Jerry Glanville? I don't think most people would know.
People might think it was Kyle.
Yeah, I think it's morphing into that.
Yeah.
Which, again, fair or not, depending on who you talk to in the business, I know one thing Kyle's always been adamant, when you hear him interviewed, he's like, when you're the OC, you're just consumed with scoring points. So he has always hammered that home. Like, it's not his job to play game management.
One missed pick up, and they win the game.
I would say history, like, it's probably fair that Matt Ryan doesn't deserve to be even though a great career, but like, I think history got it right. Like, Tom got an extra ring, Matt did not get one.
Kyle Shanahan's record with Jimmy Garoppolo is 38-17. His record without Jimmy is 9-29. Now, as the article points out, some of Jimmy's, a Jimmy injury coincided with a Bosa injury one year, a 2020 season. There were he's had a Debo injury mixed in. They've had some injuries that have coincided with Jimmy injuries, but
I wonder, does like Jimmy get credit for that win against the Dolphins? Because he started.
You just technically going as, I Brock Purdy gets credit as for, yeah. But technically, does Jimmy get credit? It's a good question. Is it percentage of snaps or is it start?
I don't know, because he's been hurt several times.
Yeah. Just a follow-up. I thought you might enjoy this. Most games coached never being over 500. Norv Turner, number one. 237 games coached was never over 500.
God, Bart Starr had a tough run there in Green Bay in the mid-70s.
Yep.
Late 70s. Romeo Cornell, that was ugly.
Close? Not really. Norv was only 8 games under 500, so.
Had some moments.
Yeah. Romeo, you mentioned Bruce Coslett. Jets and Bengals, that's an all-time combo of program affiliation. So, Tom Brady gave a press conference in Tampa today, was talking about how many friends and family. He gave out his parents' home address, said they live in the same home he grew up in. They're going to be there. He loves that his parents aren't going to have to travel. A few people, we get so into the game that I had a few messages from people said we're missing out on Tom versus Jimmy. That was going to be a storyline this week that we're not getting. A buddy of mine, Danny, texted me yesterday and said, would Brady, if he had stayed retired, be coming out of retirement this week to play for the 49ers? Thought that was an interesting question, interesting take. But Brady back home is obviously the story when he plays these games. Remember, Brady was supposed to come back home the year he tore his ACL. I guess the the Patriots were going to play at Candlestick that year. He didn't play in the game. Never got to play in Candlestick. But the combination of Trey's injury, Garoppolo's injury, whatever comes next, Tom Brady to the Niners is going to be a topic, a real topic, again, in the NFL this offseason.
One thing I noticed in Kyle talking this week is he said, when you watch Tom a couple years ago when he was a free agent, everyone's just like, he's 42, 43 years old. This can't keep happening. And he's like, well, when you watch him right now, he's as good as he's ever been. And he's hyping it up a little bit, but I also wondered, is he doing that on purpose? I am fully prepared for a story to be John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan, and Tom Brady break bread in early March or late February. Like, they have a meeting over dinner
in Mexico.
Mexico, Montana, Dallas. I don't know. Jupiter, Florida. Nothing will surprise me. I think it's on the table unless Tom retires and goes, I'm completely done. I'm going to Fox. It's over. I'm no more football, which after a game like that last week, it felt like he was close before. And then that happened. You're like, I don't know. He obviously is a single guy. He doesn't have anyone to have to, beside his children, who I just saw one of his sons just had a birthday. He doesn't have to ask for permission anymore. It's got to be a pretty good feeling. 13 years of marriage, especially if the last 4 you haven't really liked her. And it's like, I don't have to ask anyone to do shit.
You do have to arrange, the kids. I don't think you're exactly just a completely unchained stallion. But
I mean more for if I want to play NFL football, I don't have to be like, honey, listen, I can still throw the out route. I don't think you understand. If people thought that you could still be on magazine covers, you would. I mean, what are we arguing over? But
fifth in the league in yards.
Do you expect him to play next year? Because I don't. I guess I'm kind of indifferent. I don't know.
I don't know. But
what's your guess? Because I think my guess is he retires, but I don't know why I think that.
He's 45, and he said he wanted to play till he's 45. He's doing that. I don't know if they don't miss. They're going to make the playoffs. If it ends badly, if it ends well, I don't know that really changes anything. I tend to think that the better they play, the more likely he is to come back, right? If he goes to the NFC Championship game in some crazy way, it's almost harder to walk away when you're right there, when you still got it.
Someone DM me that they're not a lot. If they were to lose this week, they'd be 6-7, and the Panthers, if they were to win, they'd be 5-8, and it'd just be that division. I mean, they're obviously Atlanta. They beat them, but it's not. They don't have some 3-game lead for a team that's not very good. Now the other teams suck too. They should make the playoffs. It'd be pretty. If they didn't make the playoffs, that would be pretty nuts. They'd probably lose out, right, or go 1-4 down the stretch.
6-6. Does that make it more likely or less likely he comes back?
Yeah, I think it's hard because I think in Tom's mind this season has been a disaster regardless, right? He's not used to being 6-6. I mean, when's the last time Tom Brady's been 6-6?
I think it's hard to go. I think it's so easy to go both ways. It's hard to go out that way. So I don't know. I think I'm probably a little over 50-50.
He's looking a little weird, I think, for the first time. I noticed it in his last week when he walked out to the field or on Monday. He's looking
a little old to you?
The kind of feels like he's got the actor thing going where he's getting the cosmetic surgery. It's just maybe going through a little midlife crisis.
Yeah, could be.
Do you want a midlife crisis guy with Kyle? Would that work?
I mean, how many times can you say no to the guy? How many times
have
can you
said
bet
no
against
once?
You bet against him because you're like, eventually we'll be right. Eventually he will be too old and he won't have anything left. Right.
Well, because if you did bet against him, and I'd be for betting against him.
The question is, what does it cost you to bet against him? If you're like, well, Trey's not really healthy yet, but Jimmy's not going to be back. What does it cost us to make Tom Brady the starter for one more year as Trey Lance continues to, develop or whatever?
Well, if Tom Brady has, let's say the 49ers, he came to the 49ers and was their starting quarterback and they were good. They won the division. I would say, even though it's Tom Brady and he has obviously accomplished more than any quarterback more than likely will ever accomplish, it would be pretty nuts. A 46-year-old just keeps kicking ass. Are we just numb to this? Because I thought this year, when you've watched Tampa, he has looked at times as pedestrian as he's ever looked.
But that's how I felt his last year in New England. That's how I would say felt.
He wants no part of getting hit, which you could argue is a good thing. Why would he? He'd get injured if he gets hit. But I wouldn't be in the business. Now you could be like, well, when are you ever going to be in this situation again? You're never messing with 46-year-olds ever again, right? This is a unique outlier situation that's just a one-off. He's Tom fucking Brady. If he's interested, which I'm not as confident that he would be. Clearly, when you see him light up, like home's home, and his parents still live here. Obviously, the brand matters to him in terms of like maybe he's sappy. Maybe he knows how cool it would be for his dad.
Yeah,
I don't think that's just a lock though.
I agree with you.
I also think the offense in a weird way, and I'm critical sometimes of Kyle, like, and just coaches in general. They got to adapt, but like Kyle's offense is what works. I mean, it's been successful, and it's what kind of makes him worth the value of having him as a head coach. And Tom is not a scheme fit because he can't move.
But he does get the ball out quick, which would also work, and he can throw the ball down the field, which the Niners can't do.
But the threat of the run, the boots and stuff would not exist, and that's a huge part of the offense.
But Kyle creates all kinds of misdirections and confusion with all kind of pre-snap movements and multiple backs and fullbacks and running backs in the backfield and wide receivers split out next to behind the tight end and all that kind of stuff.
Just have a quarterback room then of Tom, re-sign Jimmy, Purdy, and Trey.
You could have a quarterback room that's a 46-year-old and a 22-year-old.
Yes.
Right? Trey's 21 or 22.
Purdy's 22 too.
How old is Trey?
21, 22.
Well, I was thinking the Niners have two quarterbacks who are hurt this year. Think about this. Tom Brady at 45 years old is healthy. The Niners have two quarterbacks. Jimmy is 31, right? And Trey is 22, or Jimmy's 32 and Trey's 21, something like that.
Yeah, Trey's 22,
and Jimmy's 31. So the two of them combined are what, 6 years older than Tom? And they're the ones that are hurt. He's 22 years old and 31 years old. That's what you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, he just
so Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo combined are 53 years old.
Tom
is 45. Tom's the healthy one, and those two guys are hurt. Why? Because they run. Tom doesn't. I looked it up. Not only is Tom the fastest to release in the NFL, the football, he has scrambled twice this year.
You want me to read off from 2002?
Got hurt running. Tom doesn't run. Tom gets rid of the football. He is almost the age of the two of them combined, yet he's the healthy one.
Guy for 20 years. I just pulled up Tom's Football Reference. I'm going to remove his ACL season, where he obviously started the one game, missed the entire season. From 02 to 07, 16 for 16 every fucking year. Obviously didn't miss a game, never missed playoffs. From 09 to 15, 16 of 16 every single year. 2016, remember, Rodgers suspended him. Fully healthy. 12 of 12, though. Came right back, starts every game, and pretty sure they won the Super Bowl that year. Then after that season, not suspended anymore, the rest of his New England career, 16 of 16, 16 of 16, 16 of 16, goes to Tampa, 16 of 16. Last year, 17 of 17. This year, 12 of 12. He's never missed a fucking game beside the ACL season and when Rodgers suspended him. He's 45. You could argue, I don't think we give that probably enough credit for how durable. Like, he's a Cal Ripken level. You remove the ACL season. I mean, this guy never misses a game. Ever. I mean, Peyton Manning missed a season.
Bro.
Like, I allow you, if you have a 20-year career, one season, it's football. But then, there should be several. If you looked at Roethlisberger's pages, you'd be like, oh, he missed 3 games here. This year he missed 2. That's pretty normal for his career, right? This guy just plays. If he's on your team, it would be a statistical outlier for him to miss games.
Yeah, even even Rodgers, who really doesn't miss games, has missed.
Well, he's had a clavicle. He's had a concussion. I mean, he's been hurt.
I don't know. He had 2 in 10 and 11. He played in 15 games, but they were good that year. So that might have been just a week, the last week of the season sitting. Like one of the years he went 14-1. He probably just sat at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Or did they lose?
I would imagine he sat.
But he played 7 games in 17. He played 9 games in 13. Again, if you extremely healthy, 4 straight years of 16 games, preceded by an injured season, 6 years of 16 games, preceded by an injured season, preceded by basically 5 full seasons by Rodgers.
Tom is a durable dude, man.
Yeah.
Maybe what I mean, if he wants in, you crazy just now.
Durable, but also avoid situations in which quarterbacks get hurt by being immobile. Counterintuitive, can't run away from anybody. But guess what? Most quarterbacks can't run away from anybody. The key is to not try. That's the thing that Peyton always knew.
What would you say if Tom Brady signed with the 49ers, their allotment for primetime games would be when the schedule came out? Maxed?
The max. I mean, they get the max anyway, right?
Yeah.
So, God.
I'm in.
On the stream, somebody said, Wolford has a neck. Yeah, I mean, the Rams are beat up. Listen to what Michael Lombardi on his Thursday, I think this was Thursday's podcast, Michael Lombardi on his podcast. Listen to what he said about Matthew Stafford.
Probably a good chance. I would say better than 70% that Matt Stafford doesn't play next year. How do I know that? It's just I have a sense of that, right?
Okay.
I think he's beaten up, his body's tore down, and I think there's more to life than just coming back. And I think with his wife, Kelly, having gone through what she went through, I mean, where do we want to go with this? The kid's such a great competitor, and he's so tough. I mean, they had to put him on IR because he probably would have wanted to keep playing. But what more does he have to play for?
And you've mentioned this for a few weeks. Like, don't be sure. Shouldn't we be open to the possibility that Matthew Stafford does not come back, and then maybe McVay does not come back? Stafford turns 35 in February, John. So he's closer in age to Tom than he is to the young quarterbacks in the NFL. And he's really kind of even older because he was really young when he came in the league. So he's played, this is his 14th NFL season. He's got elbow tendonitis in camp. Then he gets the concussion. The elbow never feels like it's totally right? Then he gets concussed. And then the second concussion that's in the protocol is actually a spinal cord bruise, which, a doctor would have to explain to me. I think it's connected to the concussion. But a spinal cord bruise sounds a little scarier than just your straight up grade 1 kind of brain rattle.
I'd agree, yeah.
So, he's got a lot of money coming to him, but 70% chance, says Lombardi. He calls him Matt Stafford, a little disrespectful. But Matthew's not back next year, according to Michael Lombardi.
I mean, I remember thinking that. Again, I don't have any inside information, so I just checked his. Well, because I just checked his net worth, and it was $300 million. Tom, for example, now Tom Brady's taking discounts, but he's played since 2002, has made $302 million. So for NFL standards, Matt Stafford will eventually be passed by the Allens, right? The Mahomes one day, but he is going to be one of the richest, if not the richest NFL player, not named Tom Brady, for a while, I would say, moving forward. And
wait, he'll end up, if he were to play the next 3 years, he would end up richer than Tom, probably.
Yes. Well, because Tom will come to the Niners for $7.5 million.
He's got $90.5 million in cash coming to him the next 3 years, Stafford.
His injuries are pretty legit, though, right? I mean, because he's another guy that, unlike Tom, you pull up his Detroit Lions, box scores. Like, he missed games over the years, beat up. He was tough, but he was getting fucking peppered. And hell, he was peppered last year, remember? And then to come in with this, I kind of expect to have elbow surgery in the off season. And who knows what that entails? I mean, I don't know, man. I if I was him, got my ass kicked, I won the Super Bowl. Now that would end the Matt Stafford could still make the Hall of Fame talk. It's like, well, he's still got 5-6 years left playing. Like, that would be over. He's not a Hall of Famer, but be able to play with his kids.
Sneaky 12 years in Detroit, played the full season 9 of those years. Played 8. And his rookie year, he played 10. His second year, he played 3. So that means that in his last 10 years in Detroit, he played a full season in 9 of those years. Think about that. So he was always hurt, but he didn't miss actually that many games.
little Mamba mentality there, because remember, like, it always felt like something with him in Detroit, just getting killed.
The shoulder. It was always like a shoulder too. It was always like crazy.
I remember
seriously.
on a couple Thanksgiving games, like,
Difficult
no
stuff.
way Matt Stafford's going to be able to play. He's like, I'm not missing this for the people. This is my
It's
Super
like, Matt,
Bowl.
you guys are 4-10.
Yeah, so
4-8.
I respect him. Clearly, this year was a disaster for him, and I think that would be a disaster if they. I mean, part of the reason they signed that huge deal is they were thinking they were getting Matt Stafford at a pretty high level for 3 or 4. That would potentially end the Rams of being a contending team.
His
Right?
cap number next year is 45.
Surprise.
No, dead cap. Sorry, dead cap is 49.5 in 2023.
Rams got some issues.
Well, at least their draft pick right now is 3.
So the Lions can get Will Anderson.
The Lions can get Will Anderson. That's 70% chance to not play. I don't know. Like somebody texted me like, well, what about Garoppolo? I don't. Garoppolo's not going to be cheap if he's healthy and a free agent. And 2, I actually don't think Jimmy's I mean, they just got Baker, so whatever. But I don't think Jimmy would be Sean's first choice because Sean does want to chuck the ball down the field a little bit, although Baker doesn't do that. And Jimmy doesn't really do that. But it feels like even though the Niners have dominated the Rams, it doesn't feel like Sean has come out of that.
Jimmy might be their price point. I mean, Jimmy might cost like $5-6 million, given his injuries, incentivize a lot.
You're right. I mean, it might be the best option they have.
Yeah, their options are going to be pretty limited because usually they're not a lot of quarterbacks just floating around out there.
Yeah. God, that is crazy. Shaheen on the stream says, I'm the Ham unofficial reporter checking in from SoFi. Baker is currently throwing go routes to one Rams receiver who looks like Cooper Kupp, but I assume is Tutu Atwell.
Yeah, I think he starts tonight.
That is a cross-racial comp. Good job there, Shaheen.
I don't think it's Cooper Kupp because he's got a boot on his leg, so it might be Tutu, who scored his first touchdown was it last week or 2 weeks ago?
Oh, so it must be
career
Oh,
NFL
you're
touchdown.
saying he's not saying it's Cooper Kupp who looks like Tutu. You're saying it's Skoranek. That's what you're saying, John, right?
Yeah, it's not Cooper.
Got to be Skoranek.
I kind of like.
I can't tell if that's Cooper Kupp or Tutu Atwell. Sorry, I don't see color.
That'd be a good scouting thing to say. That's not the way it's talked about.
Oh, well, in any event, what else we got? A few other things here.
Well, yesterday people freaked out. Was it yesterday or 2 days ago? We were talking about Brock Purdy, and everyone thought that Aaron Judge had signed with the Giants, and it turns out not only did Aaron Judge not sign with the Giants, that John Heyman got played, and then Aaron Judge got $40 million more dollars. And Susan Slessor also freaked out, and they were all wrong. And Aaron Judge is now a Yankee. They're putting the C on his chest, and everyone's happy.
Yeah,
because I saw after we got off, Aaron Boone, they're all in San Diego. Someone wrote, like, they said, did you hear anything? He's going to the Giants, and Aaron Boone looked like he saw a ghost.
I saw Farhan had a quote today. He's like, my phone buzzed at 5:15 a.m. I had a feeling they don't tell you they don't give you a yes text at 5:15 a.m. when the agents told him he wasn't coming.
That's when they text Farhan that he was going to the Yankees?
Yeah. Now, you and I have been talking about this. Like, oh, did you see the report? Andy Martino, New York baseball reporter. The Aaron Judge video was fake, John. It turns out the Judge video was fake. If you're a Ham listener, you knew that the second that video came out of Aaron in a San Francisco hotel, pretending to just be casually seen by a person.
But he was meeting with the Giants when he was in town. Yeah.
So
he just wanted to make sure the Yankees knew.
He wanted to make sure the Yankees knew, which you and I immediately identified. A couple things here, dead giveaway. Now, I did mention one of them already, Detective Haberman on the internet. Nobody posts a video that gets 1 million views in 6 hours and then doesn't do one of two things: sell it to TMZ or claim it for themselves. People are fighting for credit on the internet all the time for everything, right? Everything. I've done it. Here's the other tell. When you're going to do, this is what movies do really well. You know, when you're like filming somebody and like, all right, 1, 2, 3, go. And then they start walking. If you watch that video, you can tell that Aaron begins to walk from a dead stop, which means it's staged, right? They're like, all right, Aaron, all right, here we go. We're recording 3, 2, 1. Okay, go. But he supposedly had just come through the doors. So why would he be walking from a dead stop if he had just walked through the doors? If you're really getting caught coming through a doorway, you weren't stopped. You're walking. You're trying to get away from the paparazzi. You didn't start from so that was another one of the giveaways that it was staged. So again, something the rest of the world figured out the last couple of days, but all of you knew 2 weeks ago because we were on that story.
Listen, only Farhan and I guess Farhan and Larry truly know how close or like their confidence level. If they knew they were getting played the whole time or they thought they had a legit chance, it did feel like they were giving the impression, not when everyone thought that he actually signed, but I would say the couple months leading up. And in fairness to them, when I went to that golf tournament and I was playing with my guy Orlando, and he played in the Seattle Mariners system. He ended up tearing his arm. He played at UC Davis. But Matt Chapman was playing ahead of us. Taiwan Walker, who just got signed, was playing ahead of us. Conforto, Chapman were right behind us. So all these baseball guys, and they all know each other.
This is the Hunter Bishop, friend of the show, Bish Music.
Yeah, and I'm a little bit of fish out of water. I don't really know any of these guys. I'm like having to look at like name tag, like that's Conforto. I'm like typing in it. All these guys, baseball guys, know each other because they all fucking go to the minors, right? And you just get to know who's good and who matters. You play each other in college. And I remember being on like hole 8 or 9, and him going, "I'm telling you, all these like they all think he's going to the Giants." Logan Webb, these guys all thought like that was kind of the feel, and maybe that his agent just did such a good job of just putting that out there where internally, because it felt like he was never going to the Giants. If you and I put yourself in his shoes, you're like, you do not, if they're going to match, you don't leave fucking being the Yankees captain. And ultimately that's exactly what happened. But if you get told enough times, like she actually might leave him and she'll marry you, you're like, maybe she will. Like if enough people start telling you that, I do understand where you can put yourself in the opportunity to get played, even though looking back, like, God, we just got played. But how you can convince yourself, because there's different. You and I talked yesterday, like, you just got to be prepared just in case it doesn't go well. I do think it was more than that. Like, I do think in their mind, they thought they like had a legitimate chance. Like with Bryce Harper, when Bryce Harper became a free agent, it was like, I'm a free agent. Like I'm just doing a rounds, right? Everyone probably thought if you had the money, thought you could, swim in those waters. With Aaron, it's like, it's going to leave the Yankees when they're good and he's their best player after a historic year. And the Yankees they can't let him leave. And it's all played out that way. But it feels like the Giants internally thought like, I actually think we can get this guy.
Well, I think they probably did. I mean, I think you have to approach it like you really, you have to give it your honest effort, whatever. I ultimately don't think they got played necessarily in the sense that Farhan's been around the block. Like they know how free agency works. They've dealt with all the biggest agents in the world, right? They've dealt with Boris and all this. Like there's a reason everyone always talks about like, oh, a team might get this player because they already signed a Boris client, blah, 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 because that's kind of how the game is played. And, so I think they had to know that there was a chance that the only thing they were there for was if the Yankees deal went bad, because it's not like the Yankee situation, even though Aaron did turn down their offer and bet on himself and then make a bunch more money. It's not like the Yankees were treating him poorly. If he wanted to be offended by their offer, he could have been offended by their offer for sure. But it's not like, they offered him that contract last year when he was a free agent. Once he became a free agent this offseason, there was never any indication that the Yankees were like lowballing him or offering him some sort of disrespectful number, right? The Yankees gave him an offer, and then it was on him to go shop around and make the Yankees pay him more. And I think the Giants had to know that, because at the end of the day, what happened? The Giants offered like 360. The Yankees had offered 320. The Giants offered 360. What does he want? He wants another year out of the Yankees, and he wants 360 from the Yankees, right? He signed for 9 and 360.
Yeah.
But what ultimately happened? He had to go to San Diego to get offered the $400 million. Now, since when was San Diego in the mix here? To me, San Diego only got in the mix because Farhan and the Giants didn't go to $400 million for him. They're like, all right, we'll play the game, but we're not going to offer you a contract that we're actually not going to have you sign. And then it feels like the Padres were like, fuck it, we'll play. And then offered him $400 million. And then fucking 2 seconds later, damn it. Sorry, Grandpa. Damn. Then 2 seconds, like Kyan and Avery, man, I apologize. Don't do that. Then 2 seconds later, he signs with the Yankees. So the part of it is.
And the Padres are like, oh, shit, Bogarts, here's
Sander.
Yeah, 280. That works.
How many shortstops can one team have? So I do think now part of what makes it really hurt for the Giants is that the Giants always finish. It feels like they finish second left and right. But I do think this one in particular, I think they had to know that their main role was just to be there in case, it's like something about Mary. The guy who's he's got the crutches and he's got the accent and he pretends to be Mary's friend.
Yeah.
But then it turns out he's not handicapped and has no accent and he's just there in case like Mary will finally notice him and fall in love because she can't find a good man. I feel like that was kind of the Giants. They're just kind of hanging around hoping that the Yankees screw it up. And I think Farhan been around the block enough to know. Now I'm with you. Like, I think you also had you start just believing like anybody, when you buy a lotto ticket, you're like, well, maybe I could win. Then I'll quit my job. Bye, suckers. I think they had to know. The analogy I tweeted was, it's like when you hit a routine ground ball to short, you hustle it out just in case the shortstop throws it away. In this case, the Yankees are the shortstop and the Giants are the guy hustling to first just in case the ball gets thrown away. So, but they still, like, now the question is like, okay, fine, you didn't get Aaron Judge. There's no shame in not getting Aaron Judge away from the Yankees because, like you said, John, who becomes a Yankees legend and then's like, I'm out?
Nobody.
Do they get Carlos Correa? Like, what do they do next? Can they get Carlos Correa? The Padres just got Xander. The Padres are loaded. Trey Turner's on the Phillies, by the way, which is pretty sweet for the Phillies.
Phillies have multiple $300 million guys. The Padres have multiple like $250 million plus guys. Stupid how much. I mean, I was thinking about like next year, Matt Chapman's a free agent. I was like, oh, the Giants would probably be all over him. Then I started thinking like, I bet he's a Southern California. I bet he goes to I bet the Dodgers pay him $350 million. Doesn't he feel like a Dodger?
I'm sorry, who are you talking about? Carlos?
Matt Chapman next year.
Chapman. Yeah.
Like how much is he getting?
He feels like a Brave too. I could see him as a Brave.
But he's getting a lot of money, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, if Xander Bogaerts gets 280, I'm pretty sure Chapman is a better player. I don't watch a lot of Red Sox games, but
Xander's pretty good. I think Xander Bogaerts pretty good player. Did Chapman? What did he do this year?
A little down year, I think.
Yeah,
it wasn't as good.
No, it wasn't great.
But didn't Marcus Semien get $250 million?
Yeah, still a good year. OPS plus was actually higher than it was the year before in Oakland.
There's a lot of money getting given out in this last couple
There
of
is
years.
a lot of money getting
sport. A lot of people complained. Baseball, the players all thought they were getting screwed. If you're just like a fringe all-star, you're getting 120 starting, right? If you had a couple all-star seasons and had a couple years where
you're getting it at age like 31.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Although Chapman's younger. Oh, well, I mean, Chapman's going to be 30 next April.
But even Trey Turner, he's 29, but he gets an 11-year deal, so you pay him till he's 40 years old. Can you imagine like Belichick?
Ander's 31 or whatever.
NFL GM seeing some of these? Wait, so you give him 11 years and you guarantee every penny? This is the dumbest. Like Robert Kraft, Jerry Jones, like, this is how you guys do business?
A couple updates from Shaheen. Again, if you're watching this after the fact, listening after the fact, but these are good updates. He says, from SoFi, Baker skipping balls to Ben Skronik, Tutu Atwell, Bryce and Austin Trammell. Appreciate the updates from SoFi. It seems as though Ramsey is interested in talking to Carr and Adams more than any of his teammates. # best friends.
I can see it feels like Jalen's mailed this thing in. I don't totally blame him.
The clip that went viral, if people haven't seen it, from the Seahawks-Rams game, I don't know if it actually went viral. It's just a clip from the game. DK goes in motion, and he points at Jalen Ramsey and waves at him, come with me. Jalen doesn't, and whoever covers him gets beat for, I think it was a first down catch. But oh, John, big news. Giants are in the quote-unquote driver's seat for Carlos Correa.
Who tweeted that?
I don't know. Somebody screenshotted a Bleacher update from the Chronicle, so it might have been Susan. I can't really tell. I get some of these Bleacher updates. It's like, I don't need a Bleacher update to tell me that the internet is dragging John Heyman. Don't alert me. Can I just get the actual news? And I know. I don't need that silliness.
It was a rough day for his Twitter account, but
it was a rough day. And for John, I mean, John Gruden's latest email, not that bad. 2012, 2015, he just wrote in an email, the Raiders suck.
Remember, that was the year that, because he called Carson a pussy, that they signed Carson off the couch because remember he quit on the Bengals, so he'll never playing for you again.
Yeah,
Hugh Jackson made him. Why did the football team have it so out for John Gruden? Is it because of him and Jay Gruden butted heads, so he just went after John?
He might was he just totally for people that didn't follow that story, and I barely have. The Commanders were getting investigated by the league for their bad workplace culture, and so their attempt that what they wanted was to make it look like it was all Bruce Allen's fault that they had a bad culture, and so they started releasing Bruce Allen's emails, and Bruce and John email a lot. And that's where Gruden stuff all got caught up, right? The football team.
But that's what that happened last year, though.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. But now we're just finding out exactly who leaked the emails. It appears that it was the Dan Snyder's team.
Yeah, Bruce Allen, I saw today, was subpoenaed or testified or whatever in this investigation through the government that Dan Snyder and his people last year, because remember we thought Goodell did it. We thought maybe the lawyers did it. It was right, no one truly knew.
Because Gruden had ripped Goodell before, so maybe it was his vendetta.
Yeah, and it turns out Bruce Allen, who also got caught up, his career ruined, he's done, said that it was Dan Snyder, but he has probably a vendetta for Dan Snyder and Dan Snyder's people for Gruden, basically to throw everyone off the scent.
Yeah.
And
it never quite added up to Gruden trying to take out, Goodell trying to take out Gruden just for personal vendetta, right?
I could never say for certain though that wouldn't. You never know. No, these guys, circles, huge egos, big rich guys. I mean, you're just gonna hate some people in the business.
Mm-hmm.
Lot of, I'd say, jealousy is probably the wrong word, but for whatever reason, like you and I talk to coaches in college and pros, and they just don't like other coaches. You're like, know him. He's like, never met him, but I heard things. It's like you just hate other people for it's just weird.
Yeah.
This one feels like Dan Snyder leaked it just to throw everyone off the scent. So if I'm Mark Davis, I'm even extra mad. Like you guys you just threw us off the scent and you fucking ruined, even though ironically it didn't ruin them. It got them hot with Rich. But just John Gruden has
cost him a lot of money though. But also here's the other thing.
Assuming he's still paying him.
Here's the other thing you'd be pissed about if you were Mark Davis. Like, guys, Dan, this is a stupid plan. Never in a million years was this going to work. Bruce Allen was not going to be your fall guy. Nobody was going to buy this. This was the best move you had, was make it look like it was all Bruce Allen. No way. Like, I don't know. One thing Michael Lombardi said today, totally unrelated. He actually thought the Todd Downing DUI, the Titans offensive coordinator who got a DUI after their game in Green Bay, he thought that could have also been the reason why John Robinson got fired, contributed to it, because his thing was like, I didn't quite realize this. I don't know if you knew this. Alcohol is not allowed on NFL team planes.
I didn't know that, but remember Heineke, after like one of his first starts and wins, was drinking on the plane.
And Kirk Cousins did it too, right?
I don't know if Cousins in those videos were drinking. Heineke was, and the next day Ron Rivera fined him. And I was like, for having a beer? I thought it was stupid, but I wonder if it's just rules and maybe the league's cracking down. It does make sense, right? If I'm flying home, I'm getting in my car and going home.
100%.
And if it's a 5 or 6 hour flight or even a 2-hour flight, you can slam some beers pretty quick, right?
You don't want guys getting off the plane, getting in their cars and getting in trouble.
Which clearly Todd Downing, they're celebrating their win as they should.
But the point was like, well, was Todd the only guy drinking on that plane? Of course not. Did something happen in the course? The NFL is investigating that right now. Did something get revealed in that investigation that would cause that?
I was listening to that too. My only pushback on that, and I watched some of Vrabel. I was on the treadmill today. I was like, I forgot to watch Vrabel. Vrabel's like, I answered to John. Like that was the hierarchy. But it's like Todd Downing drinking, like that falls under Vrabel too. But you're not going to fire Vrabel. Right?
Well, but it wouldn't surprise me if the organization if Vrabel gets Femi, who's Lombardi's co-host, said, "Well, do you think Vrabel's going to get fined?" And Lombardi kind of talked about something else. My reaction was, "Yeah, that's a good question," and I think the answer to that is absolutely. If the NFL determines that basically that they always just drink on the plane, if the Titans just drink every road game, then I do think Vrabel will get fined.
I would imagine. I thought it was stupid, and now talking it out, I could see from Roger's standpoint that that's just an easy DUI situation every week. When our guys are flying home, they're getting in their cars, that I would probably have a strict policy. Now, obviously, some people are going to circumvent it, but that's especially the night ones like that. The Downing one, remember, was Thursday Night Football, right? So what time are you getting home?
Yeah, it was like I think it was a 4 a.m. arrest or something in that range.
Do you think they I thought it was really dumb when Ron Rivera fined him. I'm like, this is so stupid. But now after hearing Lombardi say that, I wonder if the league, that's an off-season thing that they kind of hammer home, like a strict off-season rule. Like, we're not going to tolerate this. Even though who's going to say anything?
You just the only time you get caught is when you get a photo or a DUI. But I remember a few years ago, many years ago, when I was around the A's every day, someone told me that's been there. I don't know if a lot of baseball teams do. I would imagine. Like, I do think there's less beer in baseball clubhouses than used to be. Obviously, a lot of beer. But that was at the A's at the time. Someone told me, like, yeah, you're not allowed to drink on the last flight home, right? Like, I don't know if that rule exists when you're like you're going from Oakland to Tampa and then Tampa to
New York or
whatever. But definitely on the flight home, no drinking. And I think it probably can. My guess, I don't know this, but my guess is that you could probably connect it directly to an incident. That's usually how that stuff happens. There's an incident and then a rule gets made. So. Yeah. Meanwhile, Chris says Marshawn's drinking Henny in the locker room before the game. That's the key. Pre-game drink.
Well, like when everyone gets drunk after you win the wild card, like especially when it's at home, like what do you think those guys are doing?
Well, exactly. No, I know.
I don't know.
It's like most things, most rules. You're just mitigating liability.
Yeah, that's all it's about. No, there's not any like moral superiority here.
No.
I mean, it's a drinking league. It's a
drinking world, John.
Yeah, it's a drinking world.
It's a drinking world.
Have Tito.
Be safe doing it.
Yeah,
be safe doing it. All right. Thanks for hanging, everybody. Anything else?
No.
Any other news? Transfer portal's open.
All she wrote.
Dion. Oh, I did have one other news story here, John. Magic Johnson has tweeted. Hold on, let me pull this up. Where did this go? You just think about it. You can, as I'm pulling this up.
The Lakers, are hot. They've won a bunch of games. Anthony Davis is having a incredible run. Mm-hmm. Warriors blew a game as he's trying to kick, the champs down.
It feels like a little bit of a too small of a story. Warriors did blow that game, though. What else is going on in the world that you think Magic just tweeted about today?
Aaron Judge. Sports related?
Could be sports related. Could Aaron Judge. Yeah, could be Aaron Judge.
I don't know.
Congratulations to Coach Deion Sanders on becoming the head coach at the University of Colorado. He tweeted on Thursday.
Prime time.
Do you think Magic just found out today? And that's why he tweeted that?
Probably.
Someone was
fair, I mean, those two guys have known each other, I would imagine, 40 years.
I think it's a great tweet. I just think it's funny. Did he just find out today that I would argue the biggest story in sports in the last week? We could make a tier 1, but Deion to Colorado has been a tier 1 sports story in the last week.
I mean, he could have been off like the,
could have been Greece.
Yeah, Italy. I mean, could be out of cell service,
what I appreciate about this is he doesn't apologize for being late. No reason for an apology. No, I'm just getting to the story. Oh my God, I'm so excited. I just saw it. No, when I tweet it is when it's newsworthy. And Irvin Magic Johnson today congratulated Deion on becoming the head coach at Colorado.
The Lakers.
There was a story. I don't know if you caught this one, little internet story. Larry Fitzgerald Sr.,
the Minnesota sports writer,
tweeted 2 days ago, Mike Zimmer is about to be Deion's DC. So I was like, well, that's a legitimate source. But then it turned out he's not the DC.
That would have been a hell of a hire.
Yeah. But he might then somebody reported today he might join the team as a consultant, which is basically what he was at Jackson State. Jackson State.
Yeah. Well, Deion and Mike are tight because he was his DB coach with the Cowboys. I think
Mike
Deion
Zimmer as a college coach would. God, that would be entertaining. Unfortunately, it's not.
Oh my God!
Could you imagine how mad he'll be when some 19-year-old kid blows a coverage?
Oh my God! Screws up one of his blitzes.
God, that was going to be good.
I love a good recruiting picture. There's a lot of them going on right now with the head coach, probably the position coach, and maybe the coordinator. And sometimes everyone's house is different. Sometimes super nice house all around with the parents. Sometimes they're in their dress clothes, but they're on carpet, shoes off. They all got their shoes. I just love the dynamics of all these pictures. There's always at minimum 3 people in the school, Washington, Alabama, whatever, polos. always the kid, potentially grandma, mom, brothers. I mean, you just never know what you're going to get. And I love just like in living rooms, it's just great. Sometimes you have to realize like it's part of the job, but it's like, God, I don't have the energy today to talk to random people. And then you got to end up playing games with cousins,
This was my favorite. Spencer Fano, who's a major recruit, just picked Utah over a bunch of big schools. Here is a photo of him. He's playing. I honestly don't know what this game is. For people watching, maybe somebody knows what this game is. They've got like some cards turned over on the table, and you've got 4 Utah coaches in this photo. You've got
that's Witt's brother, right?
Fred Whittingham, his brother. You've got Jim Harding here, who's the offensive line coach. And you have Morgan Scalley, who's the defensive coordinator. You can tell how major a recruit is when you.
What position does this kid play?
He's He's like a big time offensive lineman.
Utah kid, like Salt Lake City.
Utah kid. His brother is at BYU, and I think is going in the portal and is going to transfer.
So they're all their chips are in the middle of the table on this kid for them.
Yes, even though they're not playing. They got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 people in this photo. Then you get the family photo. I mean, it's huge, right? God, actually, there's another coach there. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 coaches show up to the house. Now here's the whole more family.
Those are the ones I love right there. See, shoes off, some socks, some bare feet.
Whose baby is that? I'm not sure.
You got a baby. You got who are these? Like, is that his mom?
Don't know. Dad, maybe brother.
I was going to give them a lot of credit for rolling super deep, and obviously local, a little easier, right? Everyone can just like all these guys get to go home to their houses. If it is in town, this would be impressive. If like, and who knows, they might not land him right if he was in Florida or California. Everyone would be. I bet everyone did recruit him and probably pulled off. I like when like not that Utah's really an underdog. But to them, that's a guy that I'm sure that SEC school like Bama or Georgia, like if he's that level of guy, and you just do everything to like fence them off. Like this is our fucking home city, our home guy.
Yeah.
So many back deals too. Like your brother can come here too. I love all those elements. I love when there's a brother also involved at another school and he's coming. It's like a package deal. I also think about like Blue Chips. He really struggled and then eventually started cheating. But now, like, it's got to be a little awkward for some of these guys. Like Whittingham's been involved in college football for so long. Sometimes you might just go to a guy that's like, "How much, man?" You're like, and at first it could just rattle you. Like you still can't just be like numb to it. You'd be like, "What? What'd you just say?" He's like, "No, how much? Like, what's the NIL deal?" "Oh yeah, the collective. Yeah, you talk to the guy. I think we're shooting for." How often at these tables is it coming out like 275, right? 3-year deal, 700 a year.
That's when coach is like, where's the restroom? And he gets up and leaves.
How much lying is going on too? Like coach, like, yeah, get you $500K, man. Sign on the fucking dotted line.
Well, I heard about a guy who was a major transfer this last year, and within like a month at a major program, he was not getting exactly what was promised.
Because you can't just like it's week 3.
What's he going to do? He was already there. Yeah, exactly. You can't. You can't. What are you going to do? Hold out? I guess you could hold out.
Will you like call the feds? Like they promised me money. Take them to small claims court. Like what are you doing? Well, honestly, like what if you sign a $200,000 deal and the direct deposits stop coming?
We got it. There's going to be a hold. Somebody's going to hold out.
People are like, okay,
we're going to get a college holdout.
But that's the problem with football. That like, let's say the guy transfers, but he wants his money before he leaves. People just say, no, sorry. Good luck, buddy. There is going to be like a Bruce Feldman book in like 5 years on just some of these stories that have just got to be fucking bananas. Because at least like at winter meetings or the combine, like everyone knows, like shopping, like you're just talking about, we only have $30 million to spend. This is what we can do.
Right.
This has got to be how often over the last week with all these coaches out and about, have they just called back to their head coach or recruiting coordinator? Like, I just heard the craziest thing I've ever heard in my 25 years of coaching.
Yeah.
I honestly didn't know what to say. I lied. I just said, yeah, I think we can make that work. And I walked out and I was just like shaking my head.
What about
the parent said, will you give half of your salary to my husband? And I was like, I really wanted the defensive end. So I just said, yes. I didn't think it's actually possible.
What about when some booster promises and the booster loses his money, right? The booster makes a promise, but then his business goes under or whatever. He decides I can't make that financial commitment anymore.
Always a sucker for a college coach going to visit the football player at the basketball game. That's always a good one.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Oh, transcripts, academics come first. There's a lot of that. Like, we'll take care of your son. We will make sure he goes to class. And the kids think, like, I ain't fucking going to class.
Don't worry, we know.
A lot of fluff at these sit-arounds, I mean, is Whittingham thinking in the back of his head, like, how long do I got to keep playing this card game?
I don't know. I think Kyle has always done recruiting. And just now he's with 4 stars. 10 years ago, he was only recruiting 3 stars. It's 2 years in a row, Utah's had the defensive freshman of the year in the Pac-12 now. Defensive freshman of the year, which means like a guy came in and just immediately was one of the best players in the league.
So last year they had the defensive freshman of the year and the defensive player of the year because they had Lloyd, right? The middle linebacker.
Yeah.
Shocking they're good. Who was their defensive freshman of the year this year? What position?
Lander Barton, linebacker, whose older brother is the guy that hit Trey Lance and knocked him out, the Seahawks. He's got 2 brothers, Cody Barton in Seattle, and then Jackson Barton, who's an offensive lineman wherever he is. Good player.
Damn. Pretty good lineage in that family.
Cody Barton, Jackson Barton on the Raider? What team is he on?
Who was the defensive rookie of the or freshman
On
of
the
the year
Raiders.
last year? Was it the safety, like number 11? Was that
No, Junior Tafuno, defensive lineman. Tafuna?
The kid that's transferring from Oregon? Is Flo transferring from Oregon?
He's in the portal, yeah.
Does that, I don't know why I'd think Utah connections. Is that, or is he going somewhere?
I think he's from Southern California.
Oh.
Like Bosco, maybe?
Do people think he's going to USC?
I haven't even heard, but probably. I mean,
is he even that good? Because I remember everyone blew him.
He's been hurt a lot.
5 stars. Like Ray Lewis is like,
it hasn't been exactly what people think, but like SC's had already I think they're ready to flip their defense. Like you sent me the picture this morning. Lincoln, been on the show, visiting with the number 1 transfer portal defensive lineman from A&M.
I think once you deal with that level guy, who just probably coming off 850, like money is getting discussed pretty quickly. It's got to be just really weird. I just think the whole thing, and I'm pro money, pro capitalism, but it just got to be a little. And I wonder if some kids aren't even comfortable. Like, what do I say? Like, Dad, will you say this for me? Maybe the parents do it. Maybe I guess you're allowed to have marketing agents and stuff now, huh?
Yeah.
You might actually not have to say anything.
Maybe.
Because I bet I would be stunned if like the Rosenhaus, the Condons, those people don't just employ marketing agents to handle that, and then you funnel it up once.
Aaron Judge had to close his deal with Hal Steinbrenner himself, John.
In Italy.
I was like, what's it going to take to get this done? And Aaron's like, what are you talking about? My agents told you 6 months ago what it would take to get this done.
Well, TJ,
but because Hal just wanted Aaron to ask, is that what it was? You think? Hal just wanted to hear, Aaron, what's it going to take? And then Aaron had to say, well, Hal, another year at 30 mil would get it done. And Hal's like, okay, Aaron, for you, we'll get this deal done.
TJ did the same shit with the Roonies.
He did, yeah. Get the owner involved. Absolutely. All right. Good.
Later.
On that note, later, everybody. Thanks for hanging.